This is Julia Kastner interviewing Coach Joe DePietro, head softball coach at Temple University. It's October 24th, 2012, and this interview is to gain insight on what it means to be a softball coach at the collegiate level and Coach Joe's personal story.
Well, I'm the head softball coach here, which entails recruiting. I have to go out all over the country and find prospective student athletes that would fit in here academically as well as softball-wise. I have to concentrate on staying within budget. We have a budget. Each sport is given a budget that we have to stay within, that we really can't exceed. In charge of all the scheduling, making sure all the buses are scheduled, the hotels are all secure for the spring season. So it's pretty much, I do a little bit of everything. No, I knew at a young age. I was I think 16, and I was coaching a midget football team. So I knew that coaching was something I really wanted to do. If anyone would have told me then I would have been coaching, girls or women this long, I would have told them they were crazy. I wanted to be a basketball coach. I mean, was my passion. It's to this day, it's still my passion. I tell everybody if Coach Dunphy asked me to go upstairs and be one of the assistant coaches, I'd beat him up the stairs. I would go so fast. But I love what I do. I really do. It's a great job. And I always wanted to coach at the Division I level. So when the opportunity came, I left a really good high school situation because I just wanted that challenge of coaching in Division I to see if I could do it. So it's always been a dream. I knew at a young age I was going to coach somewhere, doing something. Well, when I was in high school, I did get the best of both worlds because I was the freshman football coach. A good friend of mine was the varsity coach. He asked me to do the freshman football, so I did, and it was a good break, I guess. I was at that point I had been with the girls for 15 years, something like that. So, and that was straight with the girls. But one thing I noticed about coaching females early on is if they respected you and you asked them to do something on the field, they would really go out of their way to try to do it. Where a lot of times the guys are like, well, my dad told me that's not right, so I'm not going to do it. So there was a little more reluctance from the guys than the girls. But once they respect you as a coach, either whether it's the guys or the girls, they'll end up doing what you ask them to do. So it wasn't that difficult. Well, actually, it was kind of an odd way I got here. When I was 18, I was playing. I'm a basketball person by nature, so I was playing basketball outside in March. It was one of those real warm days, and the bus from the high school that I went to came by where we were playing basketball, and girls in the neighborhood that I knew that were going to the high school, I was talking to them and asked them how they liked the school, and it was right when tryouts were starting. So they said, well, they're going to drop. We're not going to be able to play because they're going to drop the JV teams. We don't have a coach. So, like a dummy, I told them I'll do it, and because my football coach is our athletic director, and 36 years later, here I am. And then as far as Temple, I was the head coach of LaSalle prior to coming to Temple. LaSalle wasn't funded that well as far as scholarships and stuff. So when the Temple job opened, it's a fully funded program. They fund the program the right way. There's expectations to win here, and that is something I really wanted. So when the job became open, I applied for it, and lucky for me, I guess, I was chosen. Well, I think it's changed me in a couple different ways, I think. I mean, number one, it keeps you young. You're around young people all the time. The interaction you have with the players, I think, is one of my favorite times, is when I can, interact with my players and have fun with them and get to know them as people, not just as softball players. I think, but when I first came in, I was a Division I coach going right from high school, and I expected us to be as good as everyone else, and it just wasn't realistic. And you also didn't have to push the college players as much as you do the high school kids, because high school kids, they're immature and they want to kind of do their own thing sometimes. Whereas in college, they were there to play softball. Obviously education first, but they were there to play that specific sport. So to really push them a lot, it kind of backfired on me. So I had to learn to adjust and back off and trust my players a little bit more, which I think I've been able to do. Actually, it was a harder transition than I thought, because when I got to LaSalle, it was a program that wasn't very good at all, and my high school team was actually better. So I experienced things as a college coach my first years that I never experienced as a head coach in high school. We were run rules on a regular basis, which I'd never experienced, and I didn't handle it well. The players didn't seem to really care as much as I thought they would have in college. So it was really hard for me to get them to understand my point of view and why I expected what I expected. And it took us a couple years to get those kids to, come on board. Well, the hardest thing was I didn't recruit them, but they didn't recruit me either. Like, they didn't sign up here to play for me. So I had to win them over or try to win them over. And some I was able to win over, and others, no matter what I did, I wasn't going to win them over. So it was hard. There was only one player, which was Christina, who was going to come to LaSalle and play for me. But when I got the job here, she decided to come to Temple. And the rest of the girls knew that. So she got hammered a lot because she was considered mine. And they weren't, so it was hard trying to convince them that I know the right way to play. Because the school I came from at LaSalle, they didn't have a very high opinion of LaSalle, even though the year before we swept Temple in a doubleheader and beat them up pretty good. We run ruled them, and it didn't seem to matter to the Temple girls. Like, oh, he came from LaSalle. Like, how good can he be? So it was hard to try to convince them that play a certain way and it's going to pay off at the end. So that was my biggest. It wasn't so much that they weren't talented, but they weren't mine and I wasn't theirs, which was hard. Well, it means a lot. Like, I don't care. Any coach who tells you I don't care if their players like me or not, they're lying. No one wants to be disliked, and I'm no different. But I know in the situation I am, the position I'm in, I have to make decisions which always aren't popular. So at times, parents are not going to be, I guess, my biggest supporter because I have to make a decision. Someone has to do it, and I'm in charge, so I'm the one who has to do it. So you want everyone to respect you and like you and play hard for you. I think being able to recruit high-level Division I players and spend time and get to know them even before they get here. And then once they're here, trying to mold everyone so that they're a cohesive unit. And then going out and playing some of the top teams in the country. I really, really get a thrill out of knowing that we're going to play one of the top 10, 15 ranked teams in the country every year here. And I think the players like that as well. So that's kind of gets you going, knowing that you're going to, be able to compete against the so-called best. You know what? I like it. That was one of the things when I interviewed here is I was told that the expectation of the administration is that they expect us to win. They didn't put a specific number, like you have to win like 4 conference championships in your first 6 years or anything like that. But I'd like to be held accountable as a coach because it makes me drive a little harder. And the thing with the players is I'm recruiting all of the players, and I do primarily all the recruiting. Like, no one who's come here hasn't been my decision. I haven't let one of my assistant coaches decide like we're bringing in player A without me being okay with it. I just won't do it because it's my name at the end of the day. So I guess we're kind of tied hand in hand. If I bring in the right kind of players and they respect me and they play hard for me and their teammates, then we're all going to be happy. Well, the first thing obviously is talent. I mean, that's the most important thing is they have to be able to play. But I know a lot of coaches do this too that I've spoken to is I want to see a player fail on the field, like making an error or striking out with the bases loaded, and how they react to that afterward. Do they go in the dugout and they throw their helmet? Do they talk back to the coaches? Because if they do, that's not a kid I want. And you can tell, especially now because this is my 11th year at Division I, I can tell if a kid can play pretty quick. The thing is now to see if she is going to fit into what we're going to do. And it's not just talent, it's what kind of personality the kid has. If she's a local kid, what kind of parents does she have? Because the parents are going to be here all the time. And if the parents are a little nuts, I'm going to back away from that kid. So there's a lot of different factors that go into deciding if that kid's right for your program or not. But talent is definitely the number one on the list. Well, I think if it's like recruits, you go to watch kids play at a tournament, like they know you're there because you can hear them talk like, oh, there's the Temple coach, like I wrote them a letter, and it's kind of cool, I guess. to know that, when you walk in onto a field or go out to watch a game, like all the girls in the dugout know you're there. Like they all turn to see who's behind the backstop, and they're like, "Oh my God, look, there's Temple, or there's this school, there's that school." So, yeah, you're always kind of under the microscope with things. Like the players know you're there, um, so it's a good feeling, I guess. It's especially now that the program has changed and we're going in the right direction where we're considered a successful team now. Yeah, it's pretty cool, I think. Well, it means a lot to me. When anyone who plays for me, whether I have a great relationship with them or not, we're all part of the same family. And when someone like the team that made fun of your socks, um, it may sound like a little thing to a lot of people, but to me it really bothered me. Like it bothered me more than you actually know. I just don't like to have other people disrespect our players or our school or whatever, because I won't want you guys to do it to them either. So when someone talks bad about us, I get all kind of fired up. I don't like it. It's not right. It's not, just because someone's wearing a pair of socks that aren't the same kind that everybody else is wearing. It's not like they were glowing in the dark or anything. It wasn't like they were like hideous. That's you. And for someone to laugh at you like that, I just found it very disrespectful. And if someone's disrespecting you as one of my players, then they're disrespecting me and they're disrespecting everybody that's come through here before. And that's the way I look at it. So I really think it's not something I'm just going to look the other way on. Never. It bothers me a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it does. I have a blast doing this. I really do. Everybody asks me, how much longer do you think you're going to coach? And I'm like, well, as long as you don't have me. It's fun. There's no set hours. I can wear what I want. If I don't want to come in today, I don't have to call in. It's as long as we do everything we have to do paperwork wise, and I make sure I get out to the tournaments I have to get out to recruit. It's an awesome job, I think. I now that I look back, I could never have a 9-to-5 desk job. I wouldn't know how to handle it. I think I would quit. I wouldn't be able to do it. It's just the freedom you have here to come and go as you want. And, you go out there and you target a player and you try to talk to them so they can see you're a good person, someone that they would like to play for. And I don't know, I kind of like the whole aspect of it, I think. Well, the thing for me is the relationships that you develop over the time that you're here or anyone else is here. It's just not about, for me, it's just not about softball. It's more than that. I want to know what makes Julia tick, what your likes are, what your dislikes are, without being intrusive, where I'm getting in one of my players' business. I don't do that. I've never done it, nor will I ever. But in the general day of a conversation, if we're on a bus or having lunch somewhere as a team or, whatever, and I can interact with anyone on the team and find out something about them that I didn't know that has nothing to do with softball is what I think is really more important than knowing that you can hit an outside pitch. So I really take a lot of time to try to know that my players, I want each of my players to know that I care about them, not just as softball players. I want them to be the best student they can be. I want them to graduate on time. I want their experience here to be something when they look back on that it's a positive.